Hello, my friend. Welcome to the podcast. And today I want to talk about a phrase and a concept that we hear all the time, especially in the personal development and personal growth space, which is not quitting, finish what you start, and pushing through. And I totally believe that there is value in grit. But I also want to talk about the other side of that conversation because knowing when to quit is so powerful too. And this was recently brought to my attention when Adam Grant shared something on social media, and he said this: success is not about finishing everything you start. It's about knowing when to grit and when to quit. When people adjust their goals and plans to face challenges, when people adjust their goals and plans in the face of challenges, they make more progress and feel less depressed and anxious. The ultimate flex is flexibility. Oh my gosh. I just love that so much. I'm a huge Adam Grant fan, so shout out to Adam and all that he shares. But this one hit hard. It hit hard because follow through and having high follow through is something that is a characteristic of mine. And so it really hit home because I need to remember this. And I thought maybe you, like myself, need to hear this too. Because maybe you're someone who loves to keep promises to yourself and you really take pride in being consistent with something and you don't love the idea of giving up. Even if circumstances in your life have made those things difficult, it's something that you truly, truly value and you don't like to give up. And so hearing this, it just hit home for me, and hopefully this message hits home for you today. Because so often, high follow through is a huge strength. But the shadow side is that sometimes, if you're anything like me, you can keep going with something long after you probably should have stopped. It's no longer serving you, and it was time to give up. And I want to share a real example from my own life that when I saw the Adam Grant post, I remembered this immediately. It was a very quick story that popped into my mind, and I thought I would share it with you. And I even still have the email because it was a big day. So on August 13th, 2024, I intentionally broke a 684-day streak of something. And yes, it was very difficult for me. That was a really tough thing for me to do, even when I knew it's time to stop, because I was so in the habit of doing this thing. That streak was on Duolingo. And I was doing my best, I say doing my best in quotes here, to learn Italian. One day, I would love to spend a long time in Italy, so like a month or more. It's something I've said I've wanted to do for a really long time. If you've been around for a while, you've probably heard me use that as an example. I don't know when this is going to happen, but it is something that I'd like to do one day. And so learning Italian felt like something I should do. Right? Because if I want to spend time in Italy, I should probably learn the language or at least know a little bit of it, right? So I committed. I downloaded the app. I started going. And for 684 days, I showed up. Even when I only had a few minutes, even when I was tired, even when I didn't feel like it, I showed up. But then after 684 days, I asked myself, am I any closer to speaking Italian than I was on day one? And the honest answer was no. I could recognize some words, and I had that streak going. But I wasn't speaking Italian. I wasn't practicing Italian. I was not planning the trip to Italy. The only thing I was doing was maintaining a habit, which in and of itself sounds like a strength. But was it worth my time? Was it something that I was needing to do? There were times where I would sneak off. I would be hanging out with friends or family, and I was like, oh, I gotta do my streak. I gotta get on Duolingo real quick. And I would hurry through my 2-minute session and then get back to the friends. And that's dumb. When I think back to that moment or those moments that had happened, that wasn't worth my time. But I was being so rigid about it. I thought I was being disciplined. I thought I was having high follow through, which is such a strength in so many areas. But in that area, it was not. And so when I read Adam's post, I remembered that streak and I remembered that example. And I really appreciated that he not only said this post, right? But he talked about the research behind it. This research was a huge study of over 230 studies. And it found, get this, that when people adjust or disengage from goals that no longer fit, they actually make more progress overall. They have less anxiety. Hello, don't we all want that? And feel less depressed. This was a shocker to me because I was like, oh my gosh, I tend to think, I'll put it on myself, if I quit, I'll lose momentum. But the data shows that when you can free up your mental space, your emotional energy, your time, you can actually reallocate those resources towards the thing that's actually going to move you forward in life, to do the things you actually want to do. Quitting the wrong thing can help you grit through the right thing. And it all clicked. Yes, I want to go to Italy, but that is not the thing that's happening right now in my life. It doesn't mean I can't dream and have that Pinterest board. It doesn't mean that I can't watch an Italian film and hope I pick up on some of the words. But I was spending precious time and mental load, right? I am holding on to this, right? When it was not something that I needed to focus on in that moment. Now, there's a lot of nuance that goes into this. I'm sharing about this one example, and you're probably thinking, yeah, but what about in my life when this and this and this, right? I totally understand there's a lot of nuance. And when I'm working with clients and when I'm working with myself, right, and I think through, is this the time to grit or is this the time to quit? I know that there's a lot that goes into that conversation. It's not usually a moment in time. When I'm talking to a client, we usually have a few conversations about it before there's a moment where it's like, okay, it's time to let that one go. So I get it. But there is one question that I would encourage you to ask yourself today and to think about, because it will give you, if not the answer, a very clear indication of where to take the conversation in your head, with your therapist, with your coach, whatever. Here's the question. Is this action, the action I'm taking, directly connected to the current goal that I'm working towards? Now, I'm specifically talking 90 days-ish, right? When we look at that. Now, I totally understand that there's long-term goals that we have to be doing something in the short term, moving towards the long term. Like if I do want to go to Italy, I do, right? That Pinterest board is helpful to have it in the back of my mind. Okay, what is the month that would be a good month to go, right? What months do I want to avoid? These are things I can be figuring out. Learning Italian is going to be more important once I know when the heck I'm going, because I'm going to have urgency to learn the language. I will probably start talking and watching movies and videos and different things with that language. But right now, I don't have the urgency. So for you, I want you to think about the actions that you're taking and asking yourself, is it time to grit through? Because sometimes we have to. Or is it time to let this one go? Because there are times when it is important to grit through. There are things, let me tell you, there are things I've had to do that are uncomfortable, annoying, very frustrating, difficult for me, not fun, all of those things. That's when you need to grit. When I know, okay, if I want to be consistent with this podcast, this is a great example. People ask all the time, because I have been very consistent with this podcast, and it matters. It gets into your earbuds because I am consistent with this, and it helps so many people, and it helps you learn different things. And so I want to consistently show up for you. But I can tell you, my friend, there are absolutely times where I don't feel like recording these episodes. Usually once I get started, I'm like, okay, all right, I'm in it. But there are times when I don't feel like getting that started, getting that boulder going. And I do it because it matters, right? That's the grit. Now, let's say 0 people were listening to this podcast, and I've been doing it for a year, which is thankfully not the case. And I would think, is it time to quit? Right? Is it time to stop being consistent with this thing that's not really serving me and doing the thing I thought it was going to do, right? You can see the difference there. There's times to grit and there's times to quit. And I think the thing that I really want to hone in on for this message is that stopping something that no longer aligns with you for whatever reason. Maybe it's a season of life, maybe it's a choice, maybe it's different, you just have different goals. It does not matter why you're quitting. If it no longer aligns with you, it is not a failure. It is an intentional choice. You have discernment. This is no longer for me, and I am intentionally stopping. And that's the thing. If you've ever worked with me and you've stopped doing something, I've said this to you. Because I'll say, you're not quitting, you're not failing, you are intentionally stopping this. Because there's a big difference. Big, huge difference. A feeling like you just stopped because you forgot, or you fell off, or you didn't feel good, or feel like doing it, versus I am intentionally choosing not to do this anymore. It's a very different choice. And so when you can go into it with that idea of like, I'm not feeling, I'm intentionally choosing this as the new path, you feel so much better about it. So once you make that decision to let something go, make sure you're using your words that you're thinking in your mind very intentionally. Because you have a real danger if you don't do this to hold on to something for too long. Hello, 684 days, right? I held on to that for too long. I wasted precious time with friends, family, myself, whatever, because I was doing something for the sake of a habit. You have to know when it's time to quit. So here's your accountable action for this week. I want you to think of a habit, a commitment, or a project that you're maintaining right now that's sitting in your mind and in your gut because it's coming up as I'm talking about this thing. And I want you to ask yourself, what goal was this originally meant to support? Because you intentionally started to do the thing on purpose, absolutely, and that is great. So what was it originally meant to support? And then I want you to ask yourself, is that goal still active right now? Am I still connected to this goal? And if you stopped that action, what would it free up? Would it free up your time, your energy, and your mental space for something else? If it's still connected to you, if this action is connected to a goal that you still care about, it's time to grit it out. It is time to do the thing and make sure that you know why you're doing it. Because it can be hard and you can still do it. It can be not fun and you can still do it. We do hard things all the time. Look at your life. I know you've done it. But if it is not, if it is no longer aligned, it is time to give yourself permission to quit, to not do the thing anymore, to let it go intentionally. Choose your words wisely as you're saying this to yourself so that you know that you stop doing the thing with intention. Because success is not finishing everything you start. It's knowing when to grit and when to quit. And as you go through this path, as you go through this reflection, I want you to know it's okay if this is difficult, and it's okay if you hang on for a little bit longer to make sure that you know you're making the right decision. But once you know, and it's time to move forward with the grit or with the intentional quit. So I believe in you. You've got this. Until next time, my friend.